Thank you for joining us today. If you have not heard, Brattleboro is becoming a pay-as-you-throw community as of July the 1st, if not before. And to tell us all about it is one of the people who've been involved with this particular subject for years, Kahler. Moss, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me on BCTV.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Now, give us the rundown. When does pay-as-you-throw start for Brattleboro? Who does it involve and who does it not involve?
It's going to start on Monday, June 29th of 2015. It involves anybody who is currently on the curbside town-wide service. So if the town contractor, Triple T, picks up your trash or recycling or compost at the curb now, on June 29th, you're going to need to purchase a pay-as-you-throw trash bag.
And you have examples of what will be the final colors of the trash bag on hand?
Yes, it looks like at this moment we're going to have Colonel's Purple for the larger bag. These are drawstring bags. The larger bag is 32 gallons. And the smaller bag is sort of your typical 13 to 15 gallon kitchen size bags. And they're going to be the drawstring bags where you can pull the drawstring closed like so and cinch your bag up before you put it at the curb.
So I realize that there's a charge for the bags. I believe, what, $3 for the larger one, $2 for the smaller one per bag?
Yep, that's right, $3 and $2.
So what does Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner do to reduce the amount of trash they're putting on the curb and therefore paying a larger amount because they have a larger amount of trash?
Well, there's a lot they can do, and of course the goal and the purpose of pay-as-you-throw, which is required by Act 148, the state of Vermont passed this law, the Universal Recycling Bill, a year ago, is to reduce the amount of trash going into the landfill and to increase recycling. And in Brattleboro, we also have the option of putting our organics or food scraps at the curb. So the key to the homeowner for reducing the amount of their trash and therefore reducing the number of pay-as-you-throw bags they have to buy is to do the very best job they can of recycling and to understand what is accepted in the recycling in terms of paper and cardboard and cans and bottles and things like that. And then also the ultimate in a reduction of the trash stream is participating in curbside composting. That's been going on in Brattleboro now for close to 2 years, and over 1,000 people are currently participating. And I think if we were to talk to anybody who is in the curbside compost program, they would tell us that that alone, being able to take the food scraps and organics out of their trash stream, does a dramatic impact on the quantity of trash they put at the curb.
So how do I tell which is which, and how do I not only get myself trained, but everybody else in my family?
Well, we're going to be mailing out probably in about a week or two a guide to Brattleboro trash, recycling, and compost. It's also going to have information about the Windham Solid Waste District, hazardous waste, items like appliances and tires and automobile oil and batteries, and there's just a ton of information in here, as well as information about pay-as-you-throw and curbside compost. And then there'll be this sheet included, which lists public meetings that are going to be coming up in the month of April and May, and they're going to be listed on BCTV from time to time. They'll be in the paper, and of course, as I mentioned, you'll be getting all this in the mail, and so you're going to have plenty of opportunity to learn about these different ways you can reduce your trash stream. And if you still have questions, and still people come to me with questions that is like, that's a really good question, is something I hadn't thought of. So I welcome anybody to come to these public meetings and speak with myself, and there'll be other members of the Pay-as-you-throw committee there, and probably a select board member or two, and ask your questions about pay-as-you-throw, curbside composting, and recycling, and we'll answer them as best we can.
There are no doubt a lot of questions because you're dealing with two things that people care a lot about: their money and being able to hold on to it.
Yeah, right. Right.
So how does one start to figure this out, how it works for themselves? I mean, other communities have already had some experience with the whole concept of pay-as-you-throw, and Brattleboro wanted to make sure that it took the time to do it right.
Yeah, Brattleboro almost went to pay-as-you-throw about 4 years ago, and there was a town-wide vote, and it got voted down. And since then, we've made a concerted effort to re-educate our community about recycling, what can be recycled and what can't. We started enforcing the recycling ordinance in town. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the big change is we've started curbside compost. And this time around, there won't be a vote on pay-as-you-throw because it's really not a choice. As I mentioned earlier, the state of Vermont, the legislature passed a law and said this must be the case as of July 1, 2015. And I would like to point out that this law gets phased in over a period of years, and when it is ultimately in effect in July 1, 2020, no residents or businesses will be allowed to put organics into their waste stream, into the trash. And so Brattleboro is well ahead of the curve on that. And I recommend this as another reason why people should give strong consideration to joining in the curbside compost program now. One, it'll immediately reduce the number of pay-as-you-throw bags that you have to buy. And by the year 2020, you're going to have to do it anyway. So might as well get on board now.
So all this compost gets picked up at the curb. What happens to it? Does it go to your place?
Yeah, they dump it in a pile in the woods behind my house. No, it goes to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. Bob Spencer, the director of the district up there, manages it. And what they've been doing in the last couple years is a low-tech approach to compost. They take the compost that comes from the curbside and they mix it with leaves, and they just take a loader and they turn it, and the biological activity over actually a surprisingly short amount of time turns that into nutrient-rich compost. They expect that in the next year or so that they're going to have what they call an anaerobic digester. And this is where you put all the compost into a vessel. And there they can control the amount of heat and oxygen and mixing and whatnot. And then the decomposition happens much, much faster. So you can take a load of food scraps and organics and turn it into nutrient-rich compost in a relatively short time. And then it'll be available to the community for, I'm not sure what the price will be, but I think it's going to be quite low.
And as I understand, some of the people involved with the pay-as-you-throw predecessor, the curbside compost test, already have had a chance to experience some of that.
That's right. Last August, or the end of last summer, they got to, as they were pilot participants, and they were the guinea pigs, so to speak, though willingly and happily so, they were allowed to take up to a truck full of the compost at no charge. But that was a one-time shot, even for them. And so from here on out, there will be a minimal charge for compost.
It's funny, just using the comparison to growing up and remembering how you used to get scrap wood, and now with wood pellets and wood chips, there's no part of the wood that isn't used. It seems like now there's no part of our trash stream that isn't being used.
That's right. At my house, Tim, my son's off to college now, so we're a household of two, but for many years before that, we were a household of three. And for a long time, I've been weighing our trash, and we do a pretty good job of recycling and a good job of curbside compost, and we try to remove everything we can out of the waste stream that's allowable. And what we found at our house is we come very close to 90% of our waste stream in our household goes either to the compost, to the recycling, or returnable bottles and cans. And so only about 11%, and this is by weight, goes into the trash. So we have about 30 pounds of all these different things per week on average, and only about 3 pounds of that is trash. And we're going to find at my house, and I think many people are going to find this, particularly, once again, who do curbside compost and a good job of recycling, that you won't even have to put out a bag once a week. You may find out that you can, it'll take you 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks to fill one of these larger trash bags.
So what's left after you take all this out of the waste stream? Let's say the styrofoam coffee cup, some maybe plastic wrap, maybe some foil that's been used to top something else that's plastic. What else?
Well, it's largely that. It's styrofoam, which I don't think people have a lot of, unless they are coffee drinkers and get that styrofoam coffee cup from Dunkin' Donuts. Or it's largely filmy plastic. The potato chip bag, the bag that lines the cereal or crackers, the plastic bags that so many products come in, like in the produce. At the deli counter, they put that in a plastic bag. It's very, very light stuff. And I think a lot of people are anxious who have not curbside compost about, they think that collecting food scraps to put out the curb is going to be a really sort of disgusting, yucky, smelly process. And I think one should keep in mind that they're putting those things, if they're not composting now, they're putting those things mixed in with their household trash. And how many times have we heard, honey, take out the trash, it stinks. Well, the reason it stinks is because there's onion peels or chicken skin or something in there. And when you put those things in their own container, and it's usually a small container, just a gallon or so on your kitchen counter, you have much more control over those smelly items. And some people put the real smelly ones, if they have some maybe killer onions or turkey carcass or something like that, they'll put it in their freezer until their collection day. Then they'll take it out the night before or the morning of, put it in their curbside cart, and put it out that way. So there are many tricks and methods to control what I call the yuck factor of composting.
Speaking of the yuck factor, we're also getting into bear season. What is being done to make sure that whatever you put on the curb isn't subject to being interacted with by Mother Nature? Well,
we're going to show a display after this program, or maybe it's going to be spliced in, of the curbside carts. And they have a nifty locking handle. And I'm not aware myself of a single instance of dogs, raccoons, bears, skunks, or anybody getting into the curbside compost at the curb because the container has a tight-fitting lid with a latch. We've all seen one time or another where people put a bag of trash out by the curb loose, and animals tear into that bag to get to the food that's in there. Well, when you take your food out and you put that in its own tight-fitting closing container, you don't have the attraction in your other trash bag, your 3 pounds that you're putting out. The animals probably don't like curbside compost.
Probably not. So we've only touched on a portion of what a household might be throwing away. For instance, household hazardous waste, as an example. What is happening with that?
The big change there, and I think there'll be more news coming up, is that Windham Solid Waste Management District, which handles collection of hazardous waste, over the past years has had 2 or 3 hazardous waste collections a day. There's certain hazardous waste that they collect daily, but there's some really more poisonous ones like pesticides or caustic chemicals that they collect at their events. And they expect to be permitted by summertime, by the time curbside compost starts, they expect to be permitted to collect all the different types of hazardous waste year-round. And so while they will still be having some of their hazardous waste collection days, there'll be an opportunity during each week to be able to take hazardous waste up to Old Ferry Road.
And what happens to the old TV set or the couch that really stinks and you really can't fit it in one of those little bags? What do you do with it?
Yeah. If an item, the only thing that'll be collected at a curb has to be able to fit into a curbside compost bag. And it can't be overflowing. You can't leave it open with stuff piling over and whatnot. You have to be able to draw it closed, otherwise the driver won't pick it up. And for the items that won't fit in there or are typically not curbside items, like a TV or the busted microwave or a chair or a lamp or whatever, the Wyndham Solid Waste transfer station is there on Old Ferry Road. People can either pay a one-time fee to take items up there, or I think it's a good idea to have an annual sticker, and then anytime during the year you can take items to the, we call it the dump, but it's not a dump anymore.
No, it's a transfer station.
It's a transfer station.
But that's a great way to be able to help support that organization as well.
Yes, it is. It is, and I should mention that TVs are free. You can take them up anytime, and there's no charge for TVs, either flat screen or the old big fat heavy ones. There's also no charge for computers, printers, scanners, computer type equipment. That is also free at the transfer station. If you have any questions, you should call the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District or take your item to the scale house when they're open, and they'll be able to tell you if there's a charge and what the charge is for disposal.
Now, Moss, we've talked a lot about single-family pickup. What happens to people who live in larger apartment complexes? And heaven forbid, what happens to business? Are they getting a free ride?
That's a confusing one, and it gets into a gray area. The pay-as-you-throw bags, and we want to make clear, these are for people, are required for people who are currently having their trash picked up by the town's hauler, Triple T, weekly, along with their recycling and compost. For people who live in an apartment building with 5 or more units, their landlord is responsible for making sure they have an opportunity to dispose of their trash. They are also required not to put recycling. No one in the state of Vermont should be putting recyclables into their trash. For those people in those larger buildings with 5 or more units, they can either go to Old Ferry Road or to Fairground Road, where there's 24-hour, Fairground Road's a 24-hour recycling drop-off. At Old Ferry Road is during the business hours of Wyndham Solid Waste. They can take recycling then. There is an organics dumpster for food scraps and organics at the Old Ferry Road. And Act 148 requires that haulers also pick up recycling. So a landlord who has a 5+ unit building, and let's say they have the Good Enoughs picking up, or Triple T or whatever, picking up their trash, that hauler has to offer to pick up recycling as well for no charge. So they should have their recycling ability at their apartment building, and they should talk to their landlord.
And I understand that some of the larger industrial users, plus places like schools and restaurants, they're starting to get in on this too.
Yes, right now that's being phased in. Any organization that produces a certain quantity per month of organics and food scraps has to, if they reach that threshold, they have to make sure that their organics get taken to a composting facility. So probably for a restaurant on Main Street, they wouldn't yet reach that threshold, but say a hospital or a school or a company that actually produces and maybe cans food and has a lot of food scraps, they very likely could reach that threshold. But I want to point out, by the year 2020, July 1st of that year, everybody will have to take their organics and food scraps out of their waste stream and collect them and make sure they get to a composting facility. And their haulers will have to help them transport it.
So what have you learned from some of the other communities that already have gotten an early start on pay-as-you-throw?
Well, there's a lot of communities throughout New England, and especially Canada, who have been doing pay-as-you-throw for years and years and years. Locally, Hinsdale, New Hampshire, right across the river, has been doing it for a number of years. And Vernon, where you're from, just started about a year ago, last July, started pay-as-you-throw. And I've talked to a lot of the town and administrators in these different towns, and one thing I have found is that the worry that a lot of people have that pay-as-you-throw will lead to a lot of illegal dumping rarely occurs. That's not to say it won't occur, and one should keep in mind that illegal dumping happens now. It always has, and with or without pay-as-you-throw, it always will. The real question, I guess, is whether pay-as-you-throw is going to lead to an increase in illegal dumping. And all I can say is we're going to watch it very carefully. And any place that we find trash bags that have been left in an inappropriate location, we're going to open those trash bags and try to find identifying mail. And if we find that, then they'll probably get a visit from the police.
Interesting point. You mentioned Vernon. There was one incident of alleged illegal dumping that took place at the recycling drop-off location. And social media was very effective in pointing the information out, and the perpetrator went back and cleaned it up as soon as they found out that they were targeted.
Oh, that's good. Well, that would be, there's certainly peer neighborhood pressure, neighborhood watch type thing to keep an eye out for illegal dumping or people taking their bag of trash and maybe putting it in a commercial dumpster. I think that, we want to try to identify that, and there could be fines, but I hope more there's education first. I think what people will find if they make that concerted effort to learn the material that's in the guide, what can be composted and what can be recycled, it's really, really not difficult. The initial change might be thought-provoking. I think for people who have not really gotten into the system, whenever they have an item in their hand, whether it's a pen or a piece of paper or a clipboard or whatever it might be, they have to first stop and think, first, can this be reused? Does it really need to be thrown away? Or could someone else use it?
And which bucket do I put it in?
Yeah, and then if it's going to be thrown away, which bucket? The first choice would be recycling. The next choice would be compost. Once again, if it's allowed. And the last choice would be trash. And I think if people do that with every item, they're going to find that there's not much left in their trash. So if you have a cereal box, you take the liner out of the cereal box, that's plastic, and you throw it away, and you put the cereal box in the recycling. And it's pretty straightforward. And if most people, I hope when they get this guide, will keep the pertinent parts or the entire guide, because in it is a list of compostables, and there's also a list of recyclables. And so if they're in doubt, they should check their guide, and if that doesn't help them make the decision as to what container to throw it in, give the town a call or give Windham Solid Waste a call, and we'll be glad to help.
Now, will people be able to buy some of these containers, some of the compost buckets for your kitchen or for the collection spot?
Yep, we ran out of the curbside compost carts this last December, and we've now just today received a new shipment. And on Saturday, May 2nd. And Saturday, May 16th, we're going to be selling those curbside compost carts at the Nelson Withington Ice Rink at Memorial Park. The cost of the container is $10, and it's about a third of the retail value. If they were to buy that online or in a store, it would cost about $30. And so it's a really good container. A lot of people have been using it, and it works well. We'll also have kitchen containers for sale there that come with a roll of compostable bags. And we'll also, at those 2 Saturdays, we'll have some sessions each day for people, whether they're coming to buy a curbside cart or not, they can come and ask questions about pay-as-you-throw if they have any doubts or questions as to how the program works.
Where can I find these pay-as-you-throw bags?
They're going to be available in 6 stores, and this is a proposed list at the moment, but I feel pretty confident that it will be the final list of stores. Confident enough to say it to you on BCTV. And the stores that we expect to be handling the selling the pay-as-you-throw bags are Hannaford and Price Chopper, the Brattleboro Food Co-op and Dottie's, it's the discount food store along with the co-op, Brown and Roberts, Fireside True Value on Putney Road, hardware store, and Cumberland Farms in West Brattleboro. And that's 6 stores, and we're working with Walmart to have them carry it, but that probably won't happen for a number of months. They have a much more involved process and paperwork, and it just simply takes longer to get a product into a Walmart store.
So again, Pay-As-You-Throw begins June 29th in Brattleboro. In case people have any further questions, how can they get them answered?
Well, they can email solidwaste@brattleboro.org. That's solid waste, one word, at brattleboro.org. Or they can call the town phone number 254-4541. And they'll be directed to Callista Carbonell, who has all the answers. And if she doesn't, she knows where to find them. And that is a good spot to start. Wyndham Solid Waste has answers to a lot of the questions, especially about specific items as to what category they go into. But June 29th, Monday, the bags will be in the stores probably be between 2 and 3 weeks prior to that. So don't go running out to the store in April or May looking for your pay-as-you-throw bags. You don't need them until June 29th. And another thing a lot of communities found is people overbuy at the beginning of the program. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can buy as many as you want. But I would suggest that you just buy, give a good thought as to whether you're going to need the larger bag or the smaller bag. And keep in mind that if you make any effort whatsoever at increasing your recycling effort and joining in curbside compost, you're going to have less trash. So if you're putting out 2 bags a week now, when Pay-As-You-Throw starts with these extra efforts, you'll probably be putting out 1 bag. And so once you go through your bags, you can buy some more. You just don't need to put out 20, 30, 40 bucks to start. Just buy 1 roll and start with that and do your best to make it last. You don't have to put your trash out every week. If you can save your trash for 3 or 4 weeks and put it in 1 bag, you're ahead of the game. At my household, I figure we're going to buy 1 bag a month. It's going to cost us 36 bucks a year, and it's not a lot.
There you are. Moss Kahler, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Tim. It's great.
You're very welcome. Again, Pay-As-You-Throw comes to Brattleboro on June 29th. This is Tim Johnson, and thank you for watching.